Right, hello everyone and welcome to the Ruairidh Podcast. I'm your host Ross Baxter and today is episode 24 of the series. Today's guest, we have an amazing VFX artist coming on the podcast. We have Ruairidh MacNeill, who works at Framestore Studios. How's it going, man?
Yeah, I'm going very well, thank you, and you?
I'm doing great. Thank you once again for coming on. It really means a lot. I'm really looking forward to hear about your journey and just your thoughts overall about student education. So before we get into the podcast, man, I'm just going to do my usual, inform everyone a wee bit about the podcast.
Okay.
So if you're new to the podcast, everyone who's obviously our new listeners and so forth, the podcast is live on a variety of different platforms. We are live on 9 platforms alongside YouTube. We are live on Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, and finally Stitcher. Just give you a wee bit of insight about Ruairidh. So he's worked on a variety of incredible titles, from Avengers Endgame, Infinity War, and to my personal favourite, Fantastic Beasts. He's also been creating a variety of tutorials as well, and live streams in his spare time to teach, share and learn, and is currently working on helping out with students and interns to break into the industry. So as always on the podcast, the main thing I've always tried to, I guess, get artists more involved in is getting you to share your art. And I understand a lot of artists maybe are a wee bit intimidated sometimes to share the artwork, but I always do this podcast to really help out students of all different levels, or just artists in general. It doesn't matter what you do, whether you're an animator, a concept artist, you name it, share it, it's fine. So we've got 2 shout-outs on today's podcast. Right, I really apologise if I butcher your name here, man. I really am sorry. So, Surab Hamaji, I'm so sorry, man. He is a lighting artist, and I was checking out your work when you posted it the other day. Incredible lighting art. I really love the pieces you've been working on, especially the swamp environment. That's badass. So make sure to go check out his work. You will see it right now, highlighted on the screen. And the second shout out is Brody Hart, who is a stylized character artist who works at 4J Studios. She makes incredible art characters. I really love her style. Her artwork kind of reminds me of the TV series The Last Airbender, one of my favourites growing up as a kid. So make sure to go check these artists out and give them a follow. It'd be much appreciated. But with all that said, let's get into the main podcast. We're talking about Ruairidh today. So yeah, thanks once again, man. Looking forward to this.
Yeah, it should be good. It'd be good as well. I'd have a look at those guys you mentioned at the start there. I'll go and have a look at their work later on.
Definitely. Oh, I could talk about the TV show like The Last Airbender and stuff for ages. Did you ever watch that as a kid?
No, I think I watched one of the more recent films on it, but I never watched the TV series.
Oh, please! Oh, you can't compare the. So I've not watched the film, but like no disrespect to the makers and stuff, but it's completely different to the series.
Mm-hmm.
The series, to me, it's incredible. I loved that growing up. But so as always, man, we just start off with the basics. So just tell us a wee bit about yourself, just an introduction about who you are and what you do and so forth.
Okay. So at the moment, I'm just down in London trying to understand why the rent is so expensive, which is most of my time.
Awesome.
I'm down here doing 3D modelling. So I've been travelling around a bit. Now I'm quite settled down into working at Framestore. Been there 2.5 years. Mm-hmm. So it's quite nice. I've rather than like the generalist stuff at the start, now it's quite specialised. So now all I do is just modelling. So I think I'm kind of specialised in hard surface modelling is my main one.
Okay.
And within Framestore, I absolutely can't stand Maya. So I use a program called Modo.
Okay.
But as far as I know from everyone I've met, I'm the only one in Framestore who uses it. So it's like my little niche corner. I think that's how I'm keeping my job. You've got to keep yourself something hireable. So that's my wee way to get in.
Awesome. That's like your unique side of things.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing as well. So you're going to hate me then. So it's like everyone always hears me talking about Maya. And it's actually crazy. So our last podcast, we were talking about Maya and Max and why me and Alex were talking about why we preferred, because I'm a modeler as well. That's what I love. That's my go-to. I could just do modeling non-stop. And basically what we were saying was use Max over Maya. However, Alex said pretty much exactly what you're I pretty sure would assume as well, or say, is that like, so he now prefers Modo over Max. And I really hope, obviously I've never tried it myself, but fingers crossed it becomes more of a standard.
Yeah.
Or, in terms of, I'm not sure what you call it, but is it working layers or some sort of craziness? Like there's some sort of modifier thing.
No, it's the closest thing I can liken it to is like Photoshop.
Oh, right.
It's essentially a very similar layout. You have on your right hand side like your layers, which are essentially like your models. It's just like in Maya you've got your outliner, something similar to that.
Oh,
but I think that's why a lot of people like Modo for the modeling side, because it's unlike Max and Maya. It's really focused on modeling and not so much in the animation and the rigging and all that stuff. That's why I don't like Maya and Max. I've worked in both of them, but I find there's just too much stuff in there. I find it too cluttered.
Yeah.
But that's just my preference.
No.
I mean, obviously for the size Maya is, there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah. I think it's just it's like you said there. It's about a preference thing. It's just art in general. It's like whatever helps you, just as an artist, go with it. As long as you're making the art at the end of the day and it's good quality, and I guess it's efficient for the pipeline that you're working in, you're sorted.
Yeah.
You're like, it's like, obviously like for example, a lot of podcasts, a lot of people who are talking about this sort of stuff, they have their own preference, but personally it should all be about comfort. Because at the end of the day, you're going to be spending hours on this software. You might as well do something that you enjoy.
Yes, as well, if you don't really enjoy the software, you're normally worse at your job because you don't have that speed and that ease with it. It slows you down because you've got to go constantly going to Google and find out where's this modifier hidden, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's not very handy. That's half my time spent in Maya is just sitting on Google.
Always a fun Google search, yeah.
Oh yeah, trying to find out error codes.
So when it comes to, I guess, so obviously speaking of modal and stuff, so when you're critiquing, can't even spell it, speak right now, creating tutorials, are you talking about modal? What's your kind of teaching sort of aspect all about?
So I have a couple that I do which are modal specific, but most of them I do as an overall, like more like the thought process behind creating a model, like how to go about it, more efficient thinking. You know, if you're, I know a lot of people like they'll always have like no matter the model, they always want to start with like a box and work out, or there's a lot of people I know in ZBrush who always want to start with like a Z sphere, and it's normally not very efficient to do it that way, and it's just trying to teach people like fundamentals of modeling and the best way to go about thinking before you start working. How can I make this so that you're thinking 2-3 days ahead, so you know when it comes to UVing, you've got your nice topo layout and all those kind of things. It's just that's more the kind of angle to go for, because it's something I find doesn't really get taught at uni so much. They more teach you like just a solid skill. They don't really teach you so much about the thinking.
Yeah, like I'm really glad you brought that up. It's because I still I'll keep saying it, I'll keep repeating it just so it ingrains it in people's heads. But I loved where I went in terms of education wise. But I still think, so basically just exactly what you said there, it's like, I still feel that, I don't know, that everything's still kind of generic step by step, or like it's very just kind of read off a book and then hoping people, I guess, just follow like a cliche sort of rule, whereas it's not, it's like you said, it's not up to date, it's not as efficient as it should be, it's like things change so quickly in the industry, and a lot of obviously it's really hard, I guess, maybe getting the right teachers, because obviously, like for example, I know the university I went to, I think they're currently looking for a bunch of artists at the moment, and the hardest thing is that obviously they don't want to just jump in to getting like any teacher, but there's also like a time limit as well, and like when it comes to workflows and stuff, like obviously workflows is a massive topic, but I guess it's just hard to get the right teacher to teach the right advice. Like it'd be great if like say a university like each year maybe changed it up and maybe brought in a new lecturer each time. I know that's way maybe too much to ask. Like I have no idea how the education system works in regards to hiring, but I think it'd just be more fresh. Like I understand like a lot of people taking like we have like guest speakers and stuff. So like they'll have a person talking about this and that. However, that's just like a one-day thing. It tends to not be, I guess, like a consistent, like, it's mainly just, I have a presentation, I'll show a slideshow about, I don't know, VFX. Like, we had a really cool artist from Double Negative, and he talked about, I actually think he talked about Modo, believe it or not. He talked about Modo. You got people on your side, man. You got people on your, they're growing, your numbers are growing. And like he was talking about Modo. This was like, when was it? 3 years ago, and he was highlighting everything to even like compositing and so forth. But like inside, I was geeking out. Like I was having a blast. I was like, yeah, this is so awesome. However, I was like, now I can't do anything because he's not here. Like I can't learn anything. I'm not sure what your thoughts are on the teaching side of things. I know it's a lot to ask, but what's your thoughts on the way things are taught?
So I'm trying to do a thing actually pretty much specifically based on that at the moment.
Okay.
And there's a uni I was out doing some talks a wee while ago. And I've had similar things. I've done quite a few workshops around the place. I've gone and done the talks, and it's all, as you say, fun and exciting on the day, but essentially the next day it was a nice excuse not to do anything for an hour yesterday is what it becomes. So there's one of the unis I've been at, I'm trying to get something set up with them, because I don't know about you, but I've got like a hard drive full of 1 million projects that I've started and they just lie there half finished and you never go back to them.
Right.
So I was trying to do what I'm doing is going to start like giving them to unis, and the idea would be I'd maybe like run a module with them So I'd be like the lead of the project, but I'd also be the client at the same time.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
that when they're doing their group project, they're also getting feedback like they will in the job, so they understand it, and they'll also learn how to work with a client.
Okay.
So rather than it just being like a monotonous lesson, they're actually getting a flavour of how it's going to be, what they're going to need to do for a job, and how they're going to need to work to get there.
Awesome. Like,
Should be fun, but I mean, I think that's my weekend's gone if I get that.
you're going to be a lot of planning.
Oh yeah.
No, but that's what the teaching needs. No, but I'm really happy you said that. So like with everyone listening in, across all the platforms, obviously, Rudy, I'll ask you to share as many links as you want, and we'll fire them down below. So if there's maybe any teaching that you want to share links wise, I'll just fire them down below. And as always, folks, make sure to please go follow this guy. His artwork is incredible, really badass, and he's made such awesome film titles as well. So make sure to check them out. And but yeah, back on topic, it's all about getting, I guess, just straight to the point, right workflow. The one thing I've always struggled with the way colleges and universities do things is that similar point I brought up earlier, but it's like it's always kind of by the book, or it's like right first year, second year, maybe like obviously I can understand you have to try and find your passion, so that makes sense.
Yep.
Like, you have to be like, I need to maybe explore some life drawing to see how I feel with sketching, and then maybe explore later down the line into maybe concept art, and then maybe a wee bit of 3D assignment and stuff, just a wee bit of taster. But when it comes to the important years, so and most universities tend to have a 4-year system, so it tends to be third and fourth year you kind of identify the truth behind what you want to do. But it'd be just great if things were just exactly what you just said there, just really about workflow. But then the hardest thing though about that is the fact that it's once again getting the teachers in, because since there's so many different areas, it's really hard to get that kind of level of experience coming in, if that makes sense.
Well, I think that I think it's a small opinion trying to take on the world, but I think there's a really easy solution that unis could implement. I think the biggest one for me is with why it's not a really good way for students to learn is just simply the time scales.
Okay.
I'm not talking about overall time scale, but if you get given like a project, it's like hand it in 3 months from today. Oh yeah, it's all fine and well. I mean, that's realistic time scale. Then, but that person's going to work for a month before anybody sees what they're doing, so they're kind of working blindly.
Yep.
Whereas at work, we have 2 dailies every day, so I go at
Right. Okay.
changes per film. But we have a review at like 10:30 in the morning, which we look at all last night's renders, so we get set up for the day. And then about 4 o'clock, we have a second review of the work we've been doing so far across the day. So we've been 2 times a day, every day, we're getting our work reviewed.
Right.
And that's super common in all the big VFX houses. Every day you have dailies. And it's normally with a CG supervisor or your VFX soup, and they're the person who'll report to like the guy who's actually in charge of making decisions about the film.
Okay.
But I think if you could just simply do something like that in a uni, because the way it works is it's not just one guy sitting in the corner. It's kind of like an open forum. So you have your main guy will bring out the points that he sees, and then it's open to the room because all the riggers, the textures, the lighters are all there. So you're all interacting, and they'll tell you what they need or how they think, or maybe somebody's had the problem before and they've got a quick solution. And it gets everybody together, and it's so much faster, so much friendlier, and it's just nice to socialize. And I mean that takes us half an hour a day. You could do that in a uni, no bother, and I think that would massively increase things. Because I know a lot of students who they do their project in like the last week before handing, because the 2.5 months they've been doing nothing.
That what's the phrase? Grinds my teeth.
That's the one.
It's the reason why it makes me so frustrated is the fact it's like, so teachers have enough workload as it is, and when people are like, kind of like, for example, when I was at uni, I always made sure, I'm pretty sure you're exactly the same. So like I worked my butt off when I was at university. I worked all the time, and every time I went to a lecture, I knew I had the respect from the lecturers because I showed that I was committed.
Yeah.
And when somebody comes in last minute, like taking all the lecturer's time and expecting like sympathy, I'm just like, dude, really? Like, come on. It's like I can understand, but it's like, if you really cared about this, you would not be waiting till the last week.
Yeah.
And it's no, but that's a really cool point though that you mentioned there. And so basically, getting everyone in a room, that's what you're saying. It's pretty much getting everyone together.
Yep.
like the lecturer, everyone in the class, half an hour. Obviously, like the big one is, I guess, obviously it depends how big the class is, but
Yeah.
even if it's just spitballing ideas,
Yeah.
it's like it only takes like a minute to go like one person to shout out, right, I don't know, for it was a character and we were talking about pipeline, maybe the skin weighting looks wrong, or like the model topology is not correct, boom, fire that. That's the first feedback. Next one, anatomy incorrect. Maybe the design could be a bit more fleshed out, and then instantly in those 5 minutes that you're saying, that's a good recap to stepping onto the next, like 2 days later, to get more.
And we also have at the back of that same room, you have your production team. So they're the ones who set all our schedules. So that's really good, because if you come in and you're working, maybe they'll like, okay, so you didn't need a week on this, we'll move you on to something else, or maybe you need 2 more extra weeks on top of this. And it's this is kind of like when you first start. I mean, there's a balance you've got to make, but this is pretty much the most impressive way to work quickly. Is if you're getting ahead of your deadlines, it'll get noticed, because the people who are in that room are essentially the most influential people in the company. Is for the way it works. It's the same in I talk more about like the bigger VFX houses, because that's where I am just now. It's quite different for smaller ones. But for us, we don't get a job like a normal job. You have like 3-month rolling contracts. You're kind of freelance.
Oh, right. Okay. Right. Yeah.
You have to work for 4 years permanently before you get a permanent contract. You need to have no breaks for 4 years in these 3-month contracts. Wow. So it's a bit.
Wait, so is that? So you're saying, is that for the literally all VFX major ones mainly?
I'm not sure about ILM and MPC, things like that, what their specific rules are, but that's for Framestore for sure. And I mean, the 3-month contracts, that's standard for all the industries.
Okay.
Because they don't take on staff all the time, they take them on for films.
Right.
So we'll maybe go from like 40 riggers down to 3 riggers.
Wow. And
then a film will come in and it'll like ramp back up, or we'll bring in some modelers. It's a pretty fast pace. This is why it's really important, like at these dailies, to make yourself known. And it's really important to socialize, because the office I'm in, there's 1,200 people. I mean, that's rotating essentially like every 3 months. So people get forgotten instantly, just by the nature of it. So if you can make yourself memorable, when it comes up like, oh, we need a modeler, they're like, oh yeah, remember that guy from yesterday, or that dude that finished that thing really quickly. Like, yeah, cool. So give him the contract. Whereas like if you sat in the corner quietly, you won't get called in. 3 months will end and you'll leave without having a further job. It's a bit horrible, and I know it's really hard, because I mean, the industry we're in, we're all nerds and geeks. That's the nature of what we're doing.
Awesome.
And nerds and geeks, we're not renowned for our social skills. So it can be quite hard when there's somebody really shy, and it's a shame, but it's an unfortunate side effect. Is you need to find some way to socialize.
Definitely. Like that's the thing is, so I'm really happy you said this, because I've brought this point up a lot. I've said every podcast that I've like talked about my own background, because I'm very like I'll chat to anyone kind of person. Like I love a conversation. I can't be a good chat. You know what I mean? But it's trying to get people out of their I guess out of their shell more. And like for example, do you know what? Just for example, doing the podcast. Say if I'm reaching out to people, there's I've had a lot of people who respond back saying, for example, that I'm just too shy to come on. Or maybe a bit too nervous. Like they maybe feel like it's I don't know, a lot to kind of like, I guess, describe themselves and stuff. So like everyone has their kind of own sort of I don't know. A lot of people get stuck in their own, I guess, their own little bubble. And it's trying to get people out of their comfort zone. Like for example, like it sounds so obvious, but like for example, every time I'm giving someone feedback, or like for example, I'm still like I'm a rookie. Like I'm still basic. Like I've got miles and miles of art improvement to go, but I love every art that I do. Like I don't kind of, I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, I'm doing dreadful. I just don't think like that. Like I understand if I get told something's bad, then I'll just take it and I accept it. But when it comes to, I guess, feedback as well, it's like I always be honest, but I always make sure to say it in a way that's uplifting, if that makes sense. And like getting people to socialize, sometimes it can make or break someone just as a personality, like the way you speak to them.
Yeah.
And it's so important to like it's like literally, like, for example, Ruairidh just said it's about creating a name for yourself. So if you're it's the most cliche thing everyone says, but if you're hard to get on with, it's your name is already pretty, your career is kind of already in the, I don't know, in a bad situation, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
As well, it's kind of a bad, well, it's a good and a bad thing. It's good when you're on the right side of it.
Yeah.
But I think there's a perception that all the VFX companies are like locked off an individual.
Mm-hmm.
We're all so integrated. I mean, we've all got our own pipelines and everything, but it's when we're working on a film, there'll be 4 or 5 different companies working on the film. We're all speaking.
Mm-hmm.
So if you make a name for yourself at one company, it transfers automatically, because all the recruiters, all the production, they all hang out together. We all go to the pub together.
Yeah.
So it's because we're really useful for that as well. It's not just thinking about where you are, but where you might go in the future, because everybody's going to find out. And there's quite a few people I've known that maybe they get stuck getting on with somebody, or like, I'm leaving the company, I'm going to go to another one, so they just kind of give up being nice and they become a bit of an arse.
Right. Okay.
But they'll often find it hard to get further work.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not talking about like little things. I mean, if you have to like really mess up for that to happen.
Yeah.
But there was a thread, I think it was last year. It was like a masterpiece on how to ruin your career. It was hilarious to watch, but at the same time it was just quite depressing. I think it was NPC put up, it was a video of a leopard.
Right.
And there was a guy who just started ripping into it, and he was talking about all the bad work and all this reference. And it seemed like maybe he was a wee bit drunk in the first couple of comments.
Yeah.
But this was like for 3 days he was constantly going, and like it was CG supervisors, like DNEG, the mill, were all coming in and putting comments, and then he was starting to argue with all of them.
Oh gosh.
I mean, there was like a T-shirt made with his face on it and everything. Like he couldn't have done anything more to ruin his chances.
Yeah.
And I think it's that something silly like that. He just commented in a video, probably didn't mean it to go anywhere, and now every VFX house in London knows his face, knows what he's like, have argued with him, and he's pretty much screwed himself for just something so silly.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like it just takes a second. Like, what's the famous? There's this famous quote or something that says like it takes 20,000 hours to make a full career, but 20 seconds to ruin it.
Yep.
I think it's something like that. I know it's something like that, but it's like the crazy thing is like the one thing I've never understood is like I understand people have like their upbringings and maybe they act a certain way and stuff, but I've never understood why people like, for example, like you get your crazy online warriors, yeah, and they're like, oh, this gives some constructive feedback, but instantly they just like, that's crap. I'm like, dude, like, go away. You're not helping anyone. It should be, you should always be trying your best to help each other, and like it doesn't matter if anything sounds cheesy or corny, or you maybe feel like for example, somebody has literally posted maybe like a really beginner sculpt. Like, for example, I saw somebody post like a very common one is like when people post like a beginner character sculpt.
Yep.
And like when people are like, oh, can I get some feedback, and it's nice to see when people are like, oh, that's a good start. It's like at least encouraging words. Obviously, like maybe they're not being 100% honest, but at least after they say those words, they're like, right, focus on form, focus on anatomy, maybe send some reference, give them something to work with, and like that's the biggest flaw I think most students like. You'll agree with yourself when it comes to friend feedback during education. So everyone's like, "Oh my god, you're making amazing art! I love it." It's always an interesting one.
I think, and a little bit from like certain ways I've felt about it, but I think a lot of people do it with fear slightly.
Right.
That I noticed it more with beginners, and I had it when I first started at Framestore. You know, if you're the person saying that's rubbish, makes you look better or something. And I think a lot of people are scared to admit that they're maybe not got a skill, because when I had that at Framestore when I started, I came in and I was surrounded by just some of the best artists in the world.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't look bad, I can't do anything wrong, you know, I need to just do everything because I'm in here and there's no possible way that I can make any mistakes. So for the first month, you know, I was really edgy and it was hard, and then I think it was our head of department for modelling came across one day and he asked me for like some help in something. And I was like,
oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I was like, well, what the hell? Why is this guy asking me for help? Like he's like up here and I'm down here somewhere.
Yeah.
And as after, I was like, it kind of clicks. You're like, we're not here. It's not a competition. We're not here to battle each other. We're all here to make art together and make a film. And now like I'll happily like roll over, like, you know, like a thing, like can you help me do this or whatever. We do like it's like every 3 weeks roughly. Everybody has their own specialties that they do at home or whatever. So we'll go down to a training room, and one person for modeling will like run a course on something interesting they've learned, and we all get together and you rotate round, and it's just we're all learning, because like you can't know everything. But I think a lot of people have that fear that they need to be able to do everything, and they can't show weakness, and you can't ask for help. Like if you do that, you're not going to get anywhere. You need to ask for this stuff. These people are there with you because they know something.
Of course, and you mentioned something as well. It's like this is one thing that a few artists have now said to me. But it's like the bigger the studio is, the more kind of helpful and more kind of supportive they are to you. Like they understand that you're not going to know everything. And I've realized that people always think, oh, this massive studio is going to be maybe high ego or maybe have a lot of pressure. It's the complete opposite. It's they've hired you because like they trust your art. Like they've seen your artwork. If you've got into the job, like they're like this girl's made incredible art. She's done awesome rigs, or he's done really great artwork. Like they trust you already. And they're going to teach you the pipeline. That's part of the job as well. It's part of the like if they don't teach you, then there's no point of them having you. It's at the end of the day, it's about it's what we were saying is that like you're working together, you're collaborating, you're learning from your mistakes, and you're growing. So to touch on a point before we actually go, I just realised I haven't even asked you any of the main 4 questions. I do apologise, but I just like to go with the flow. You know what I mean? It works naturally.
Whoever next get together, this is what happens.
But yeah, so it's like when it comes to just the mindset. So like we were touching on the idea of the social aspects. Always just fire away your artwork. Don't feel pressured. Just ask people for help. Like I ask questions all the time. For example, me asking Ruairidh to come on the podcast. Like it was such an honor to ask you. Like, dude, you're the first VFX artist, by the way, on the podcast.
Oh, nice.
Like I've been trying to get a VFX artist on for ages, so it really means a lot. And you're Scottish.
Happy days.
Happy days. Can't beat the Scots. But yeah, it's just like you have to. The only way you're going to find out information is by asking people, and if you don't ask, you'll never know. So just keep asking away, and you should be having fun. Geek out about it. Gee whiz, we love art and film for a reason. Do it. Right. With all that crazy, we'll call that an introduction. That's our how long we've been talking already. I think it's like, wow, it's a 30-minute introduction. Woo.
Jinx.
Gee whiz, it's already been flying by. Okay, so we kind of tailored. Well, everything we kind of talked about kind of answers a lot of these questions, but we can maybe go into more depth about them.
Yep.
So what do you wish? So carrying on the topic of, like you said about maybe bringing people in and talking about like for example like talking for 30 minutes with a class and so forth. We can maybe touch on stuff like that. But like, what do you wish you learned when you were studying at university?
I wish I'd stayed at uni. I was only at uni for like a month when I left.
Okay.
That was a really, really stupid choice. But I think for what I've seen and people I know that have gone, you're not there just to learn the tools. You need to learn how to use the tools efficiently and properly and get to know them. Because most people I know, they go there and they think, okay, I've got the certificate, now I have the job. And it's like, yeah, but you don't have the ability. Yeah, you know how to open Maya, do whatever, but you've not learned the ability. It's just you need that practice and the speed and the rhythm. I think a lot of people get fooled into that, thinking it's all they're there for is to get the degree. That's the important thing. It's like, yeah, that's helpful, but I mean, I don't have any degrees, and it's just because I just persist in hard work and practice.
Definitely. That's
way more important. I mean, the degree will help you. I'd say I'm probably about 2 years behind where I should be because of missing out on that.
Okay.
But yes, certainly like practice and maybe don't go to too many freshers events. That's where I pretty much went wrong.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
No, I understand what you mean. Like, there's a lot of people. It's getting that balance between social life and work life.
Yeah.
But I'm really happy you brought up the fact that. So you said obviously you went to uni for a month. Yeah. So I guess what we could do is tailor the questions around obviously education, but towards more self-learning. So obviously you've had to go out and just constantly practice on your craft. So what do you wish maybe you learned differently through your self-learning in the early years? Is there anything that maybe if you knew about it, it would have helped you self-learn better?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big one is when you're teaching yourself, there is a habit that you only learn the things that look interesting to you.
Okay.
You know, like it seems like you're watching TV, you're not going to watch every program. You pick the one out that tickles your fancy.
Mm-hmm.
And there's that bad habit that happens when you're learning stuff yourself. Like you're going to pick the tutorial about how to make the car or the gun,
Yeah.
probably not the one about making a handbag or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But there'll be stuff in that handbag video which will be vital lessons, making stitching or working with displacement maps, things like that. You'll miss out on those, and you'll never know about them because there's nobody there to tell you about them. It's only if you go and look at it yourself. I think it's if you're going to go the self-taught way, you need to not just do things that look fun. Work through everything. Do projects you don't like. Because I mean, there's quite a lot of stuff I make at work. It's things that I don't want to work on. I've got no interest in them, but it's my job to do it, and I've got to get it to the same high level. So it's getting out that thing in your head. Like you're not just there to do it just for yourself. You're there working for a company.
Yeah.
It kind of kills the art thing a wee bit, but it's the negative side on it. If you want to work on something big, if you want to work on films, you're going to have to work on some stuff you don't like, and
Definitely.
it's just, I mean, it's the same in any job essentially. I mean, when I worked in bars, part of that was cleaning toilets. That's,
Of course.
that wasn't high on my list, but that's what you got to do.
It's like, well, then again, I know this is going to sound so stupid, but it's like you learn from just like your just normal jobs as well. Like there's so much you grow as a person. Like for example, one of the main points covering the social aspect again. So when I finished uni, I forgot how to socialize. I like one of the main points I always bring up because it's a reality check for a lot of people. So I went to a university called Alberta, and there's this like one massive area that basically everyone meets and stuff. And I got into this loop that I kept thinking everyone was looking at me for some reason. Like I was so socially awkward, I completely forgot how to socialize, forgot to speak. And then I work a normal job at the moment. For example, working on the tills and stuff. So everyone was probably like, "Oh my god, this guy's a podcaster and he works on the tills." Yeah, and through talking to people and stuff, I've got my confidence is back to what it normally is. And it's these things that play such a big part. So if you got a normal job right now, that's fine. You shouldn't be worried about it. It's okay.
Not at all.
You should just constantly work on your craft until, like for example, I'm waiting to hear back from a studio. I'm really hopefully I get it. So hopefully I'll have some good news. Fingers crossed in the next few weeks. But you just have to keep grinding. Like I put out a tweet yesterday. So I've been doing YouTube for 7 years. It took me 7 years to get 1,000 subscribers. And in the last month I've gained 400 subscribers. You just have to keep working at it.
So there's a tipping point.
Yeah.
You just got to keep pushing for it.
Just don't think in your head it's going to take you 7 years.
No, I mean, well, when I worked on some cutscenes for Halo 4, I was also working a bar job at the same time because we needed money. And there's absolutely no, if you're a starting artist, you're probably not going to get the best job. So I think it's get that out of your head that there's any shame in doing something like that. If at the end of the day you need a house, you need food. You could be the best artist in the world, but if you don't have a place to put your computer, well, what's the point?
Yeah,
there's no shame in it at all.
It's so crazy to think about it. But artists is like a lot of us forget to eat. We forget, we forget to sleep. We forget to do anything energetic. Or like fitness, and then you kind of realize, oh, my mind's not in the right way, and then you kind of lose sight of the things that matter most.
Yeah, so it becomes all encompassing.
Yeah, and you're just like, now it makes sense. But so obviously there's a lot of things through self-learning that are really important, and if you're going down that route, then that's great. You don't have to do the university route. There's so many paths to becoming an artist. As you can see, Ruairidh's path is a lot different to every other guest we have on, and that's great. That's important. It's hearing these different stories that just define you as a person, define you as an artist, and that's why there's no one way to do things in art. Like it's like Ruairidh was saying about pipeline. Like there's so many different ways to maybe create a model. You know what I mean? Like everyone has different ways of doing things. So, but right. So kind of similar question. Well, actually, no. We'll go into the next one just because we've kind of gone really in depth already. So, oh, this is interesting. Since you're doing self-learning, this is going to be an interesting thing. So, when you were doing self-learning, how did you go about being ready for the industry? Because normally the question I ask is, did university teach you how to be ready for the industry? But is there anything that you've maybe learnt through your self-learning that you realised wasn't really important?
Probably two we could give for that. The first one was getting out of your head that it's, this expression I always use, like it's not your baby. I mean, when you're learning how to model, you're making stuff. It's personal to you. When you go to a company, it's everybody's. My model, I'll make a model. It could be my favorite model I've ever made. 2 days later, I'll get moved on to something else, and then maybe the model comes back, and the guy sitting next to me, I'll watch him rip it apart and rebuild it and do something else to it. And it's really hard to learn at the start.
Okay.
That you just need to let go of it. It's a very hard thing to learn how to do, but it's just the way it is. I mean, any model I make, there's going to be 8 people at least that are going to have their hands on it before it's finished completely with everything. And I know a lot of juniors who they come in, like, if they make something and it's not finished, and their schedule says, okay, for the next 2 days you're making this, and they get really scared, or they get like, a lot of people get worried, like, oh, I'm not doing a good enough job, and I'm moving on. It's like, no, it's just the way we work. We have these schedules, and people move around all the time, and you shouldn't expect to have one thing the entire time.
Yeah.
And learn how to sleep. That's a big one.
That's a big one. That is definitely a big one.
It's much harder with the self-learning stuff because you're doing it entirely in your free time, and you've got your normal job the rest of it, so it's normally at night time.
Okay.
But there's a really bad thing. I find, like, if I start to feel sleepy when I'm working, I stop, and it's just because there's so many models I've made. I'll go back the next day and look at the work I've done, and it's just garbage work because you're sleepy, your brain's out of it. Yeah. You think you're doing good, and it ends up taking twice as long because you've got to go back and fix everything.
Yeah. And like I'm happy you said that, because when it comes to like I was a big culprit of this when I was at uni. So I don't know. You're gonna laugh when I tell you this. So when I was at university, so in my so at the end of my third year, I was really focused on environment art, and so I applied for this awesome internship opportunity. Well, mentoring project. Axis Animation.
Yep.
I love what they're doing there at Axis. It's great. And so I applied there, but then I made a art piece called The Martian. It's like a sci-fi environment. And when I finished the piece, my passion for character art came back. And basically, what the position was at Axis was to go for a mentorship through environment art.
Yeah.
Because I changed my passion to character art, I had to change my mind.
Yeah.
So I then lost the opportunity to do that, and what point was I going to make here? God, my mind just blank. Wait, what were you talking about again? Sorry.
As you were just going through, like, learning about when you were working at Axis, you were saying about like learning just how to adapt with change and moving along with like sleep and things like that, not blowing yourself out.
Thank you so much. Sorry, my mind just went completely out. That's the first time it's happened in the podcast. So I moved to character art, and when I got into character art, so I had 1 year to learn anatomy and make it at good quality, just so I can actually pass the course.
Yeah.
So I had in my head for some reason that I had a random number, so I was going to make 64 sculpts. So I did 64 studies of faces.
Okay.
So I sculpted a 3 hour sculpt 3 times a day, so 9 hours a day, making 3 different characters, and I did that like non-stop, right? And then I realized because I was so tired that I kept making for a month the same mistakes, and then a really great lecturer of mine, Gordon, just then told me like a fundamental rule to kind of play by was using base meshes to kind of really just change my eye to see how I could observe things.
Yep.
And it's the point I'm trying to make it. It's that smart learning that instantly changes things around, and to bring on that point that Ruairidh was saying, it's like you can make so many art pieces and stuff, but if you're not resting and you're not eating correctly, you've just wasted like your whole day. and and then the next day, like you said, you wake up and you're probably frustrated about what you did, and you're just like wondering, well, what did I do? And it's the biggest mistake universities students need to start. Well, they need to start focusing on is just working smart and taking your time with things. It's not a rush. It's not a competition. And to bring back an aspect, a point that Ruairidh said earlier is, so we were talking about the degrees and stuff. So degrees aren't an essential. Like, degrees technically mean nothing, personally. And I'm not sure what your thoughts are, obviously, but
yeah, I agree with you on that.
Yeah, they don't hold enough impact to getting a job. It's the art, because if you make bad art, they're not going to hire you. So you have to really start working smart. So based on your own experience, obviously you've done obviously the self-learning majority just of your career.
Mm-hmm.
What's your thoughts on online courses?
A lot of them I really don't like.
Okay.
Not because of their layout. It's just it's like personal preference. I'm probably guilty of doing it as well.
Okay.
But it's everyone, there's like 9 modules, and the first module is like, hey guys, so in this thing we're going to do, and the guy talks for like half an hour.
Yep.
And then nothing happens. Like, and now in part 2 we'll open the program. It's just, they're so slow and dull and boring, because they're doing it the same way as like a uni. Like,
yeah,
they're teaching you from scratch. A lot of people have already got a base knowledge. They're just going to go and pick something up. I think it would be much better for a lot of online stuff. It's better now. There's a website, Plural site. It's got a lot of really good ones on it, and they're quite focused. So I prefer them now. But the ones I had when I was learning, everybody was trying to like teach you everything from the beginning onwards, and it's so monotonous.
Yeah, it's like, for example, speaking of Plural site, so that's my guest last week. So Alex, he does a lot of great tutorials in there as well, and it's, so what Ruairidh is saying, it's we need the information. It's very much just straight to the point, and like, I know it's like, I'm not an expert at teaching. However, I understand that like we're kind of on a time limit, if that makes sense, in terms of like, so it's a race, but it's not a race. So it's a race to get a job, in the sense that everybody's obviously working and improving and growing as an artist, but it's if you're spending a lot of money on I guess tutorials, online teaching and stuff, and half of it's about just stuff you already know, then it's not going to be beneficial. Like, obviously it's down to you to look into the tutorial and find out what it's about, but the tutorials should maybe have like a level system, maybe like, say, right, this is for beginners, this is for intermediates, and where it's just straight to the point, and I think that would be a lot better.
I sent you, I don't know if you've got a way to include them in some description or something. I've sent you 2 links there.
Okay.
I'd say these are way more useful than most tutorials. So there's a website, 1024.
Okay.
They've also got like a scan store. I was trying to go into there. It seems to be down at the moment, but I'm sure it'll be back up over the weekend. But they've got this full CG body scans, which is about 90% of my job is working with LiDAR and photo scans.
Okay.
So they've got free samples, and this is like stuff we'd work on with films. It's like really high resolution. For the link I sent there, it's for a free scan of a guy. So it's like it's got, I think it looks like it's had like an auto Z remesh done on it, but it has the original super high poly one. Opening that up and playing with it, way more useful. And there's a second link in there. It's for R3DS. It's a program called Rap 3. It's a program that we're using now for all our character work. It's I've never, I can't think of the last time I've seen a piece of software that changes everything quite as much as this does.
Okay.
It has maybe something similar to them back to like when ZBrush got introduced. Suddenly you had character sculpting. We have this for, we're doing retopology of a character. So most of the big studios, we have like a base character that's pre-UV'd, pre-rigged, ready to go. And with this program, you take your scan and you take your pre-made character. You literally will put like 1 dot, 1 dot, 1 dot, 1 dot, and then put it the same on like the scan mesh. You hit spacebar, and within 2 minutes, it's normally a lot less than that. It's closer to 30 seconds most of the time. It transfers the entire model with the correct topology, rigged, ready to go.
Gosh. I've never heard of this.
Yeah, you should look at it. It's outrageous. You look at their tutorials. It just doesn't make sense. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
knocked a cable there.
Okay.
But it's what we all use. So if you can learn that I've not seen many tutorials properly teaching it, and you can learn that yourself really, really easily. That'll be a massive jump forward in your work because you'll have movie ready work instead of like in 6 months. You can get it in like a day.
Does it work for assets as well?
It works for anything.
Anything, right? Gee whiz, right? Okay. Wait. Say it again. What's it called again?
It's called Wrap 3.
Wrap 3, right? Because like
It
obviously
works best for characters, but it's just a node-based system. You just put dots
Okay.
on both the meshes, and it uses them as like constraint points, and then relaxes the topology over it.
Awesome. Yeah, because like when it comes to topology, I always used Gun.
Yep.
And like I enjoy Gun, but it's I think it's like there's obviously certain parts of the pipeline that you just aren't necessary. If you know what I mean, like you just want to focus on the art.
Yep.
Obviously, a lot of people have. It depends if you're a technical person or you're an artistic person, or however you visualize things. But no, that's awesome. So everyone, who's listening, make sure to check these links. These things, like these small pieces of information, could really increase your pipeline speed, really propel these things forward. I'm going to be having a look into this at the end of this podcast, but make sure to check them out because at the end of the day, it's about getting things done quicker. Because bring back that main point you talked about earlier. You may only have a few days to get things done, because and you need to find the quickest workflow as possible. Well, not necessarily quickest, but the most efficient.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that's going to help everyone overall, because like Rui said, you're going to be working with everybody. It's not just a one sort of team works with everything. So you're going to be working. So if you're a modeler and you're doing character modeling, you're going to be working with your riggers. You're going to be working with animators. There's going to be a lot of back and forth, and whatever's going to make that transition smoother, you're going to have to go with it.
Yep.
Okay, awesome. So obviously, when it comes to the online courses and stuff, is there anything that you've maybe thought they're doing really well at? Is there any good things that you've realised that you like?
I think one of my favourites is because you can do it in your own time. You can pause it. You can't pause your teacher at uni and come back like 4 hours later when you've had a snack and unpause them. I think it's really nice, that flexibility, because I think I'm good in people I know, and I socialise with similar people, so it's difficult to say if they're a good cross section.
Okay.
But a lot of people I know who've wanted to go to uni don't go because I don't have enough money, I can't commit the time, and there's no reason not to go learn. You just have to find a different way to do it.
Yeah.
It's a shame a lot of people will do that. They'll be too scared to go do it because of a fear of running out of money, running out of time, something like that. It's online courses. It's what they're brilliant for. You can pause it. You can, if the postman comes or whatever, you can go do stuff like that. You can sit and watch it in your pajamas or whatever your thing. I find it's much better for working the way you want to. It's just it takes a bit more discipline and self-control to do it.
Exactly. Like discipline at the day, it's the maker or breaker when it comes to that route personally.
Yeah.
Like obviously, like you've clearly showed yourself that you've like really worked on your craft, you focused, and it takes a lot to like a lot of people maybe underestimate, but it takes a lot to do things on your own. It takes a lot of commitment. It takes a lot of like you said, just the right mindset in general. And for example, if you learn that route, then kudos to you, because it takes like university. It's the easier route simply because you're surrounded by people daily. You have deadlines that you pretty much have to kind of go by unless you want to fail the course, and if you don't want to waste your money at the end of the day. But there's so many benefits to obviously both, and like for example, I am like my favorite kind of tutorials at the moment. I really hope he keeps growing and expanding, but it's Tim Simpson's tutorials for game artists and stuff, for Polygon Academy.
Yeah.
And that's an incredible source for artists, so I highly recommend you checking them out. What was it like? This is maybe a good one. How hard was it for you to find the right information?
For the way I did things, it was really hard because I didn't know anybody else doing the same thing. Nobody in the family, I didn't really have any industry contacts. So I learnt most of my stuff by just blindly ploughing into it and hoping for the best.
Okay.
Which is really not a good way to do it.
Yeah.
But it's really nice now with like ArtStation. Yeah, I used to use DeviantArt, but that was a really weird place.
Okay.
I think it still exists, unfortunately. So I've got a whole portfolio on there that I wish would disappear. But when it's on the internet, it's there forever.
Yeah.
But find like a social place, like even just on Facebook. What have I got? If I type in 3D, what do I follow in here? There's a 3D modeling and animation group with 3D modeling, texture, and animation, VFX for digital artists. And there's just one called 3D Artists. And they're just communities, and people put up a lot of their own work. They comment on it, they ask for help, they share tutorials, maybe they share assets. It's just super cool. It's a bunch of people who are just really interested in doing what they're doing and kind of just want to chat about it.
So you probably think maybe like forums is probably the way to go at the moment.
Yeah. Definitely.
Because like a lot of people have been using like I'm still I'm like a rookie at it still, but like Discord. Like a lot of people there's a lot of artists using Discord now. Because like I don't know, maybe it's just carried on from the trend of like, for example, polycount being so good in the past.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if how many people still use it, because I still use polycount every day. But I think it's the way why it's so efficient is because it's just like straight one-to-one feedback, and everyone's together, like you said. And when it comes to, I guess, the being in university, you can only get that feedback whilst you're in university. Like obviously you can talk to your classmates and stuff, but that's classmates, whereas it's not industry professionals.
So, I do as well. Like I go to quite a lot, like student networking events and showcases and things like that. And if anybody I speak to wants advice or help, I'll either give it to them at the time if I can. But normally I'm too busy enjoying the free drinks or doing something else, so it's never the best. But I always have people. It's have a differentiation when you do it. Like keep your wherever it is you use, your Facebook, Twitter, whatever it is, keep one side of your life private and one side of your life personal. So I'd go through LinkedIn. So my LinkedIn's open to anybody who wants to contact me. And it's what I always tell people, like, you can contact me, I'll give you reviews, I'll give you feedback. It might not be super quick because a lot of people are mailing me or I'm working or whatever, but it's very similar to a lot of artists. If you meet somebody at a student event or like an open day, the person's not there by accident. Like normally we have to request days off and we have to travel. We get there because we want to be there. So when you speak to those people, just ask them nice, if I message you on LinkedIn, could you maybe check something out for me? A lot of people do that, and then this is contacts you'll have continuously. I have a bunch of students that I help out, and I do constant reviews for them, give them feedback and help out, because I do it because it's something I wish I had when I was younger. I did what you said earlier. I showed everything to my mum and my friends, and like, whoa, that's amazing. And they go back and look at it, and it's far from amazing now.
Because that's the reason why I do the podcast. It's like I've always I don't know. There's nothing more rewarding than helping people. Like I wish everyone started just helping out each other more. I think there's too much of like, I understand obviously it's a competition to get a job, but it shouldn't be a competition to be like when you're in class, like you're or like for example university, you should just be working together and having fun. There's too much of a like it just takes away the fun of it if everyone's kind of like going at it against each other. There's no like there has to be kind of a like I don't know, to me like it sounds so cringy, like where like people may be, oh, it's so cheesy, but life is simply just about enjoyment. If you're like just working just to outbeat someone, then what's the point of you doing it if you're not enjoying it yourself?
It'll slow you down a lot as well, because if you're starting out, the fastest way to get somewhere is do group projects, just for the simple reason, if you post something by yourself, maybe you get 10 views. If 5 people work on it and they all post it, you get 50 views. It's all shared work. It's much quicker because you want to tap into that community. I mean, you're trying to take on the 3D world by yourself. It's a pretty big thing to do. Get some friends, it's way quicker. It's just, for just that simple one, you can get a job faster if you work in teams just for pure exposure. It can be a bit selfish, but it's just a good way to do it.
What's your thoughts on how to create a name for yourself?
I
know it's a big one, but like, is there any kind of tips you'd maybe help with? Maybe just like I understand at the end of the day, it's if you make good art, you generate a following simply through that. But what would you say?
It has to depend on what your goal is, I think. Like if you want to be a stylized character artist who does these like unique sculpts, that's not going to work for a company like Framestore. I mean, you've still got a job, you got the skill, you can show it, but if you're doing super stylized things and you're showing that's what you're really good at, you're not showing anything else. You're only showing that one stylized aspect. So I mean, fine if that's what you want to do, rock on. But you need to pick that first and then make a name for yourself being the stylized guy.
Yeah.
But it will close off other doors. I mean, for me, I used to do a bunch of texture and lighting stuff. My lighting's not very good. I'm colorblind, so my texturing is pretty gash.
Right, okay.
So I've now just logged into just going with modelling. I've focused out on that,
Yeah.
just hard surface modelling. But it's had the side effect now that I've got, like I'm so specialised at what I do at Framestore now, it would be really hard for me to go get a job doing something else because that's what I've made my name doing. That's where my skill set is, and I've lost knowledge on a lot of other things.
Okay.
I think it's easy to make a name for yourself. You just need to find the thing that you want to do it for.
Yeah.
Like if you want to just have your name known for being a 3D generalist, that's probably going to be the hardest one. But if you're going to go the 3D generalist way, do it with a team of people. Because the easiest way would be like to be the lead for the 3D team, even if it's just some of your pals and you were like call yourself the lead or whatever.
Yep.
That's how you would do it. But you need to pick the thing that you want to have a name for because you don't want to shoot yourself later on.
Definitely. Like, I'm really happy you said about the generalist thing because that's become a trend now on the podcast. So a lot of people have been saying to me that it's kind of like it's a route they wouldn't recommend.
No.
Because it's such a, it's like 10 times harder because you're like forcing yourself to learn everything. It's like you have to that's literally no social life. Like that's everything kind of out the window. And you're losing the fundamental principles of that are more important, just having a good life and enjoying things. And like I understand it's difficult sometimes to choose a niche, like maybe to choose an area to get into, and you think that might be the safest option, but in the long term, it's actually probably the worst option you could probably go for. Like I understand it's a debatable thing for me to say because I'm not an expert, but hearing Rudy, I agree with this and understands that that's the important part, because like. I don't know. Is it just because there's not many jobs under the title, or like how is it just because it's so hard to get the title?
I think it's because it sits. Careful with this one. I think it's because it's where it sits. It's like it's generally for like a generalist style thing. I don't in any way mean it to be mean, but it's not the highest level of work. It sits just below big studios.
Okay.
As in a big studio, there isn't the need for journalists. We have people in for 3 months who are specialists who come from all over the world. There's no need for journalists. So normally a journalist would be more in like a smaller studio or perhaps like a game studio rather than a VFX house.
Okay.
I think it has that slight negative on it. It forces you there. So maybe if you want to be a journalist, you work on films. If you stick to doing that, make a name for it, you're making your life really, really hard because you're in a pool where there's a lot of people. Because I think it's what you learn at uni. You learn a bunch of different stuff. You don't just learn modelling. You learn like 3D art as a whole. Yep. And it's what everybody's taught. And I think there's more people who want to do everything because, I mean, obviously it's way cooler in your portfolio if you model something and texture and animate it and it looks awesome and cool. Yep. But I mean, it's going to make it difficult for you getting into a bigger place. And I wish I could do a lot more generalist stuff because there's a lot of projects I want to do. But that's where I go with having a team of people or working with friends, because we kind of treat it like a generalist collective, I guess. Like, you know, one modeler, one texture artist, we work together as one unit for a project. I find that to be way more effective. But I think for like your first year of working, it's pretty useful to be a generalist. If you're not going to go through the runner option, it's like a best and a worst at the same time. Like the best way, I think, if you want to come in and if you don't know what you want to do, if you're just starting out, is to become a runner. It's by no means a glamorous job. It's, as it suggests in the name, a lot of it is you're running around in the dishwashers, restocking things. Yep. There's a lot of it's not brilliant, but at the same time, you also get to see every single department. You get to meet, I mean, the runners get to meet the bosses that I never get to see exist, but they get to go and make tea for them, so they're getting to interact with people right at the top, and they're making friends, and you get a little flavour from each individual department. You don't get that just by going and getting a modelling job. I mean, there's huge things that I don't know, but the running thing is, not glamorous. The pay is normally not brilliant, but if you don't really know what direction you want to go in, that's a brilliant way to do it, because you get
insight.
You get to see everything. You get to see what you do and don't like and find out realities, and then from running, then you can get a secondment into doing what you want to do, and you can specialize down if that's the route you want to go.
Yeah.
It's really good, but yeah,
It's
just
it's a hard
comfy
one.
shoes.
Because I had so Framestore has been like a studio that's been like, for example, myself, I've been very passionate about Framestore, the artwork and stuff. So I think I messaged you actually a while back saying that I went down to London. So I had the chance to go to an incredible. I actually talked about it on one of my podcasts. I went to a thing called Vertex.
Yep.
And the reason why, so the runners are a very difficult thing. So I've had like, I think we all have it's pretty much the same opinion as you. So like, there's two sides of it. So obviously I do environment art, and I would love to do environment art for game, environment for film, whatever. And but because I've always known what I wanted to do, I felt like I've always wanted to. I should just aim for the environment art role. However, I also understand that it's like you said, it's trying to get into maybe a role. Runner sometimes is the way to go. So when I was down at Vertex in London, the recruiters said to apply for the runner, and a lot of other artists that I've talked to have a very kind of debatable sort of thing. They think it's not the best way to go. But it depends, because like you made a good point there. If you don't know what you want to do, then it's probably it's the best option of everything. I know it's not the greatest at pay. I think that the only thing to make sure about the runner thing is that make sure that you've saved up. Like I think it's crazy. Like you said right at the start is how expensive London is.
Yeah.
Like for example, I'd love to live in London. I would love to experience what it's like. It's like an adrenaline rush every time I go round. Like I was just going on the trains. It's like, gosh, there's so many people. Like back in Scotland, I'm like, yep, there's nobody here. But it's the runners. I think you just need to make sure that you're stable. Like make sure you have like a decent foundation of a wee bit of saving, or a decent bit of saving, and understand where you're living. Like where are you living? Answer all the questions you need first to apply for that role. Like, would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, for just for London wise, for like a sense of perspective from anybody who doesn't really know much about living here. So I think for a runner's salary, I can't remember what it is. I think it's either 17 or 18,000 a year. Is like your. It used to be 15, but I think some rules got changed in that.
Okay.
So you're on 17, 18 grand a year.
And that's in London.
Yeah, and that's with then you get tax on top of that. And so, I mean, this room that I'm in behind me, this is it's just like an open plan room. It's not very big. This is £780 a month just for this room.
Jeebus.
And I mean, this is what London's like. So if you think you're making probably what, by the come out age, like 900 a grand a month you're making, and immediately like 80% of that's gone just on rent.
Yeah.
That's the reality if you come to London to be a runner. But this is where the social thing comes into it. Make friends with lots of runners, all grouped together, get a shared house. You're good. You make friends.
Yeah.
It all comes back to the socializing every time. And if you do know what you're wanting to do, studios pay you to move. If you're coming from another country or another city or whatever, it's normally a budget of between £200 and £300 that they give you to get flights, bring your stuff, move house. Like I don't know specifically for other studios, for Framestore, if they're bringing you in from somewhere else for a role, it's like a £200 moving budget. So it's normally your flights, all your costs, and for the first 3 weeks they give you free accommodation while you find a house.
Oh, awesome.
So I mean, it's a really sweet deal.
Yeah.
Because it's the whole thing. If they want you there, it's because you're good. So they pay for people to come because they need good talent. So I mean, I think the runners thing, if you're not sure, if you do have an idea, but maybe it's somewhere else, you can go that route and get paid to move. It's really easy to do. It's just, I think it's, I don't know if I got right to put it, it's just finding the balls to jump in.
Yeah.
It's just, it's hard to do that first thing of just taking a step that's scary and putting yourself out your comfort zone. But once you do it, it's fine.
Yeah. Having, and like I said, it's like making sure, like just look into things, like really look into depth. Like I'm pretty sure yourself, you looked at a lot of places in order to get to the accommodation that you thought was best for you. It's like these, like, don't, like, obviously you have to take the leap, go for it, but you have to also think smart as well. Think ahead. Think about just like you said about rent, like all these things come into play. How much food you need, being able to socialize, being able to go outside, having this time, traffic. How long does it take to get to the job? Like all these things add up, and it's only through research and being smart again. It's the same thing. Like you have to be smart about the work you make, about how efficient you work, but also how you live. And all these things summarize just art as a whole. And bringing in the big point that Rudy said earlier. So if you've moved to London and you've been there for 3 months, and your job is only there for 3 months, you also have to think long term as well. Like, what have you made a good enough name for yourself to stay in London? Therefore, do you continue the rent? Do you maybe need another job? Sometimes thinking ahead about a future job. You have to kind of like tailor all these things together.
Yeah, we always, I'd say for my general rule, maybe it's slightly different if you're first moving down, but maybe sounds a bit cocky, but I'm pretty comfortable now. I think I'm okay set. So if I was to lose it, I'd be able to get something.
Yeah.
But even for me, it's always the month before my contract's due. They give you a month's notice, so it's like it's not like if you're 3 days before and you're. It's like if it's 3 days before your contract's due to end and you've not heard anything, you're not gone in 3 days. They give you a month's notice.
Yeah.
So you have like 1 month before, because they know it's not you're not the first person who's going to come in and have issues.
Mm-hmm.
They've dealt with every problem before, so they give you a month's notice, so you've got time to prepare, and you can speak to the recruiters from the company you're at who know recruiters from other companies, and if they know work, they'll help you get work at other places, because everybody's trying to help each other out. It's not completely cold and cruel.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, if you are starting, the studios look after you, because when it comes to the bottom of the day, they're money making machines, but without artists, I mean, they're not getting anything. So if when you first start, it's pretty similar in a lot of studios. It's not the best way to do things. It can, I mean, obviously it's not good for timing, but if you stay late, studios buy you dinner. We have in our cafeteria, there's free coffee. It's the same in all the big houses. It's free coffee, free tea, there's bread, Marmite, peanut butter, things like that.
Yeah.
There's basics there. So if you are completely like low on money, there's enough in the studios to help you out. And if you're really like in trouble, they've got like counselling things. They've all got the joint counselling ones. There's money advice things. There's regular stuff about pensions. Like they really look after people.
Mm-hmm. That's great to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just that whole thing of moving to, like, so we're both from Inverness, and it's what's the 300,000 in Inverness, I think.
Oh, Inverness is tiny, dude. It's nowhere near that. It's
is it not?
You're about to be surprised. There's 55,000 people in Inverness.
55, James.
It's tiny. It's
yeah.
It's completely, like, it's crazy. So I've lived in how many places have I lived in? So there's only 55,000 in Inverness, I think. There's like 300,000 in Edinburgh, 440,000 in Glasgow or something like that. It's just crazy when you think about it. So it's like you have what, 10 million?
Yeah, I mean that's the daunting thing for me. I come from a city of 55,000 people. I just looked up there. London's 8.1 million.
8.1, damn.
That's 3 or 4 million more than the entire population of Scotland.
Yeah. Just
in this one city.
Yeah.
It's pretty full on, but this is the nice thing of like, if you move down when you're daunted, you can, if you choose to, you can just stay in the studio. There's food, there's bread, there's everything there. You can slowly ease out into the world.
That's so, like, I'm still so gassed about that. The fact that you're from Inverness as well. Like, I'm like, that's so awesome. Like, the fact that it's like somebody from your hometown is like, just like kicking ass in the industry, really doing what you want to do, and like it doesn't matter what like where you're from and stuff. Just keep working at it, keep creating art, and just like we've covered like so many awesome topics today. But thanks, man. Really means a lot for coming on.
Yeah, no bother at all.
I'm not sure if you have anything else you want to bring up, or we're pretty good and set.
I mean, I was having a look at your Martian thing there. It looks pretty good.
Oh, thank you.
I'd maybe just go with, I don't know if you want to include like a link for either my ArtStation or my LinkedIn, as if anybody wants.
Yeah, of course.
Do you want to send them over just now?
Yeah. What I'll do is I'll showcase like what I always do is pretty much I put every links and social media on the slideshow on the back.
Right.
And then in the comment section. So once again, folks, everyone who's listening, please make sure to go check out his work and give him a follow. He makes some really awesome work.
There's a piece in there in particular that's I was thinking of the final lesson there of somebody to teach. It's one called the Mad Professor's Ride. It's like this weird car thing. Have a backup for your hard drive. Get a
Right.
Dropbox account. Don't have all your data on one PC. PCs die.
Yep.
And I had that project and not quite finished. I'd done the renders on it. I had a hard drive format, and I've completely lost all the work. It was months of work. I've got no way of getting any of it back.
Ouch.
And yeah, that really stings. Like,
I'm going to back up my train now because you said that.
yeah.
Right.
And I think I've got a Dropbox account. It's like £7 a month or something for I think it's a terabyte you get.
Okay.
It's not much of an expense. I mean, £7. I know if you're like, maybe you're running and starting off, £7 can be quite a lot. This is like maybe it's like a day or 2 days food budget, but it really is worth it, because this is like, the work you make is your image to the world, and if you lose it, I mean, you've got nothing to show. It's so important.
Because oh, gee whiz, the fact that you said that, I'm going to I'm going to make sure I back up my train now. Gee whiz, because I spent 6 months on my train.
Yeah.
It took a long time. But do you have Twitter, or what social medias? Do you just shout them out now if there's anything you want to share?
Well, I've got, so these one, I'll give you links for I've got a page on Facebook, because I don't, if you can contact me on my personal Facebook if you want, but I won't respond to you if it's 3D related. It's not that I'm being horrible, but it's just you need to keep your life separate out. But I do have a 3D page on Facebook, so I've got that. My LinkedIn is just my name. With the spelling of mine, there's not many of them to try and fish them out of the pile. There's very few of us. My main, yeah, my main one is on Instagram. I've got this little plastic like mannequin figure.
Okay.
This is, when you're asking about how to make a name for yourself, this is how I'm doing it just now, because I'm trying to get way more into doing talks and master classes. So I've got this little guy that anytime I go to an event, I take photos of him, like pretending like he's leading the crowd or something, or sitting outside an event. So it's on Instagram. It's lost my color, but there's underscores between each word. And it's something silly and stupid, but it's that whole fun thing of now, like, come here like, so I saw the wee plastic thing was at this, and then maybe you want to come here, and then they'll share your social media, and then it's just this little silly daft thing, but it's a way to make a name for yourself as well, because you're like, are you the dude with the wee plastic thing? You're, yeah, it's me. It's something stupid, but hit every angle you can. But social media accounts are free, so why not take advantage?
Definitely. So everyone who's listening, please go check him out. So I'll be sharing this across all 10 platforms. So the Anchor, the Spotify, the YouTube. I'll be spamming it everywhere over LinkedIn, to Twitter and Facebook. So make sure to check them out. But once again, thank you so much for coming on, man. It's been a pleasure having you on.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to hearing the next podcast as well. They're sounding good. If you're not listening to these old ones as well, go back and listen to them. They're really good.
Thank you so much for saying that. Everyone who's wanting to know who our next guests are, so we have Tim Simpson, who's worked on films, game stories such as Far Cry. He's also the creator of Polygon Academy, and also another great artist who I've always followed, who's a lighting artist, is Ognian. Hopefully I'm pronouncing his name right. He's worked at Ubisoft and so forth, so got a lot of great guests. Please make sure to subscribe, that'll be much appreciated. Don't forget to leave a like and select the notification bell if you want to be notified every single week. I'm trying to get, actually, believe it or not, 3 podcasts down a week. I'm really trying to grow the community and really help everyone out, so we'll see how things progress. There's a lot of personal projects I'm working on as well, similar to Ruairidh. Obviously not as on his level, but I'm still improving. But
I was having a look through. You've got your big, your kind of spaceship hangar in London type thing.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, really like that one.
Thank you. Absolutely loved making it, man. Took a long time, but had a blast making it. But we will see you guys in the next video, and bye for now. Thank you.